Hi, I'm Alex Helmbrecht, and I'm joined here with Daniel Binkard, my co-host, and welcome to the FARcast. Our guest today is Caitlin Redden. Welcome to the show, Caitlin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. An instructor of business here at Chadron State College, but a familiar face both to Daniel and myself. You were here as a student, and without aging ourselves, we certainly probably used you in some advertising marketing campaigns back in the day. But you went to school here, and then you also worked in the START office, and you've had some other jobs. So tell us about your history at the institution.
Sure. So my freshman year of college, I transferred here, my freshman year of college, I went to the University of Wyoming, and then my sophomore year, I transferred here. I just didn't see a good fit when I was in Wyoming, and I changed my major, and I thought, why am I paying out-of-state tuition when I could go somewhere that I can get a really great teaching degree? That was originally the plan when I came to Chadron State, since that's what we're founded on. Mm-hmm. And I took one teaching class, and I thought, this is not what I want to do. So I changed to business so that I felt like it was relevant no matter where I went with my life. And at that point, I was kind of feeling the pressure to make a choice and decide what major I wanted. So, started here as a student in, 2008, something like that. And then I worked as an ambassador here at the college, so gave a lot of student tours during that time. I also worked at the Rita King Library. I worked for Sean Hartman and Christine Fullerton, but also Glenda Gamby was actually who I reported to. So that was a really fun experience, and I met a lot of students in that way. After that, I helped the visit office. That was when I came back to get my master's degree, and I was a graduate assistant for the START office, and then I got hired on full-time. So, I've seen now as an instructor a lot of different sides, student, staff, and now faculty.
Yeah, I guess I forgot that you were a graduate assistant, so you've definitely seen all types of roles here at the college, staff, student, and now faculty.
Yeah, so when I graduated with my undergrad, I took about a year away from Chadron. I moved away and saved some money to go to grad school at K-State to pursue organizational communication. And then I took a class there in organizational psychology that I really enjoyed, and I'd kept in touch with people here in Chadron. And that's when the Master of Science in Organizational Management degree was starting to become popular.
Right.
And was told, you could come back to Chadron and take classes. It's basically, you get to design your degree based on classes like that. And you wouldn't have to pay for it because you'd be a graduate assistant, and we need some help. So that was in July, and I moved in that August to be a graduate assistant. So
Nice.
It was a quick turnaround.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it worked out.
It did work out, yes, and I was really lucky. I started, though, the Monday before classes. So orientation started that Thursday, and I started the Monday.
Just jump right in.
So it was
Best time to start.
learn, trial by fire. Some things I could answer, but there was a lot that who I worked with at the time, they were very patient, but they probably
good.
were thinking like, oh my gosh, maybe this wasn't the best time to start somebody brand new.
No, it usually works out pretty well in the end.
Yes, and it did. I think anyway.
At the time, it's not. So you mentioned you started out as an education major and then kind of shifted, and now you end up back teaching again. So it kind of feels like full circle, I suppose. But I'd like to know a little bit about that, why teaching, but also maybe you go back even further and tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you hometown and all that fun stuff?
Sure. So I went to country school until the 5th grade. So we lived on a ranch, and we had a really, really small country school of about 10, maybe 13 students. Yeah. And that was south of Whitman, Nebraska. And Whitman is east of Alliance, if you guys don't know, in the Sandhills, like a dot on the road map as you're driving through. So very, very small. I went to school for a couple of years in Hyannis, and then when I was an 8th grader, my entire family moved into Mullen, Nebraska, and that's where I graduated from high school. And my mom always wanted me to be a teacher, and I really enjoyed English and language arts, and I was always good at it, and I liked to write, and I loved to read. And my mom, she always said, you should be a teacher, you should teach. And I had a tough class. There were 15 of us, so just to point out again how small Mullen is.
Right.
There are only 15 of us, and it was a tough class, and I told my mom I would never want to teach a group like what I am participating in every single day. And, you have those. I think no matter where you go, you just have a couple of students that are more difficult than others. And it was always in the back of my mind. When I went to get my master's degree at K-State in organizational communication, I was hoping to go on and get a PhD after that so that I could teach at the college level. So it stayed in the back of my mind that entire time. And a funny story, Kathleen Kirsch, it was my advisor for the MSOM program here. And she told me, if you are thinking about a PhD, then don't do an internship. You should definitely write a thesis. And then I met Josh, and I thought, oh man, I don't know if that'll ever become reality for me to go on and get a PhD or a doctorate. So I told her, I said, I'm going to do an internship. And she said, no, you should do a thesis. And we bantered on it, lovingly for probably a couple weeks. And finally I said, Kathleen, I really just think that this isn't an interest of mine anymore. And she said, okay. And she supported me then to do the internship. Well, then when I reached out to James in the Business Academy and asked him if I could have an opportunity to adjunct, if there was any openings at all, and that I was starting my doctoral degree, so I was hoping to teach, I told him he had full permission to tell Kathleen that she was right. I should have gotten
You never know.
But I think the seed was planted, at a very young age that I should teach. And I don't know if it's because my mom really wanted me to, or, I was so unsure at the time. I always thought what I would teach would be like 3rd or 4th grade. And then I took that elementary ed class, and I thought, not
quite.
I don't think that I can quite do this.
It takes a special type of person.
It does, yes. And we're lucky to have the people that fulfill those roles. But I thought, upon some reflection, this is just not for me. So it's completely different now. And had you asked me 10 years ago, what I would be doing, I would never have told you that I'd be a college instructor right now,
Well, yeah, that's the question that kind of comes to my mind. And we should probably ask this more of the people that we have on here. If you weren't teaching college level now, if you weren't teaching, period, what do you think you'd be doing?
Man, I have no idea. Between my time in the START office and coming back to the college, I worked at one of the banks downtown as a personal banker, and I really enjoyed that. But that's actually something also that contributed to me wanting to teach. Was I had gone through a lot of training while I was there, and the other branches had a lot of new staff. So they would reach out to me to ask questions, and their branch manager would kind of say, if you have a question, contact Caitlin and she can help you.
Natural teacher.
Yes, but I never really saw that until then my colleagues that I had helped them, they didn't need to contact me anymore because then they had worked long enough that they were familiar. Sometimes we would bounce ideas off of each other, but it wasn't, like before when they would call me once or twice a week at least and say, how do you do this? Or what's this process again? And I missed that. And then we hired a couple of new bankers, and I had the opportunity to train them and realized how much I liked helping them learn a new job and the responsibilities and teaching them how to do it. So kind of a natural knack, I suppose.
Very good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've mentioned a couple different times you have a background in START. So I know there's a lot more to it than just that, but basically helping students with advising and enrolling into classes. How does that background and experience serve you now in your role?
I never realized the wealth of knowledge that I've received when I worked in START until coming back into a position now on the instructor side. And it's such a blessing that I was able to see the staff side, because when I reach out to START, I'm able to say, this student of mine needs to enroll in these classes. These are the prereqs that they've met. This is the call number for the class. I'm able to give them so much information, because I know how helpful it is.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, when advising, I feel such confidence in being able to tell my students, this is what you should take, this is when you should take it, and being able to walk them through their degree audit. Or if they say, I want to change my major, or I want to add on this minor. How do I do that? Being able to go through the steps within our system to be able to say, these are the classes you'd have to take. Are you interested or not? What do you think? I feel like I can have really great conversations with my students and build some camaraderie with them just because of that background. And colleagues of mine in the START office always said I played the game, which was kind of an inside joke, but obviously not anymore since I'm talking about it on a podcast. But I would have students come in and, I was in my mid-20s at the time, and it was one of those things where I was old enough that we didn't really relate anymore to each other. What they were going through and what I was going through were different. So I would ask them, oh, you're from Burwell. I have a cousin that lives in Burwell. Do you happen to know? And I would always try to find some common ground with them, and just developing those skill sets. And now, because I'm even older, knowing I don't relate to the students that I have in my classes, I just try to find common ground, and I think the START office really prepared me for that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, building that relationship in a meaningful, human way is important. So that's wonderful to hear that you're doing that.
That's something I always want the students to remember, is that I'm human too. So let's just have a conversation about what brought you to Chadron State. What do you like about it here? What do you maybe wish that was different that I could help you with? Or, if they need outside resources in any way, I feel a lot more comfortable being able to have those conversations with them than I probably would have had I not worked in the START office. So I'm lucky to have both sides.
Good.
Definitely.
Both experiences, I guess.
Tell us a little bit about the classes that you're teaching.
Sure. So I teach real estate principles.
Very important stuff.
Yes. So all finance option students and the agribusiness option students are required to take it. But I actually had a student give me a really large compliment that they thought that it would be applicable to about anybody, because it's all about the home buying process and valuing homes and things that we don't think about, like city ordinances and zoning. So I really enjoy that class, and I feel fortunate to have worked at the bank since I did some home equity loan and home equity line of credit. I understand a lot of that, a lot more maybe than I would have had I came in, without that experience. So I'm really lucky that I get to teach that class. And I also teach principles of finance. So that's a required class for all business majors. And I do like that class because I get to have contact with students who aren't just in the finance or the management realm, because that's really where my areas are. So I get to, meet some of the students who are studying marketing instead, or business information systems or accounting, whereas otherwise I might not, ever get to have exposure to those students. I teach organizational theory and behavior, and that's a class within our management option. Human resource management, also within the management option, and I get to teach our capstone class, which is strategic management. So I've got about 5 course preps. I did teach a graduate level course in the fall for the first time, so that was exciting as well.
Yeah.
That was our human capital management class. And I'll teach another one of our graduate level courses this coming fall. It's a face-to-face one that we offer, so I'll take that on under my wing.
Very good.
And so you're in business, so you're operating on an 8-week schedule.
Yes.
Do you like that, or does it make it hard when you've got constantly new courses coming in?
There's always a week 1 coming up, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's crazy how fast your life goes when it's measured in an 8-week session.
I bet.
I'm like, wow. I mean, you think we're already in the middle of week 3.
This spring's flying by.
Oh
It's
almost
my
midterm
gosh.
for-
Yes, it is almost
Yeah.
midterm for our students.
Yeah.
Yes. And I do like the 8-week sessions because we're able to teach a class and then, move on to something else instead of drawing it out the full 16 weeks. As a student, I really enjoyed the 8-week classes. And when I worked at the bank, I had an opportunity to do some professional development courses, and I took a bank strategy class from Fort Hays State. And that was a 16-week class. And after only taking 8-week for my master's degree and majority of my undergrad in the business department as well, it was the longest class of my life. I was like, wow, is this class ever going to end?
I bet.
I've just become really acclimated to the 8-week, but I would say there are some courses that might be better taught in the 16-week just because of the amount of
Sure,
information.
yeah.
You're going to find that no matter what.
Yeah, and I think it's the sweet spot is probably different for the student, I suppose.
Yeah, it's an interesting balancing act because I start wondering, is it, there's pluses and minuses to both formats, but would it be beneficial for there to be almost an audit done of all these different courses and say, yeah, this one here could be condensed without losing anything, and this one needs to be 24 weeks to really get the full material done.
Yes. In my classes, the human resource management, it's a 400 level, and then the organizational theory and behavior, like I was saying, was the 300 level. So, these students, they have a little bit more deeper thinking when it comes to the concepts or putting together a human resource plan for a hypothetical organization. They have to do all the research into it. And I think that spending a couple weeks on that's enough time, but sometimes I do wonder, do they need more time on a project like that?
And everybody individually has got their own ideal timeline too. It's a tough balancing act.
It is, but it's fun. And I just think that when we make it through an 8-week session, it feels so good, for the students and for us. I think usually week 6 and week 7, we start to get okay, we're almost done with this. We're almost done with this round, and we'll pick up another one. So it feels good to start a new session, but I'm never tired at the end of an 8-week.
That's good.
That's good.
I enjoy them. I don't know. They try to soak in the time I have with my students while I do. So.
Right on. I took a 5-week class one time, and that was too quick.
Oh, man.
So moving on, one of the other things, or one of your other responsibilities in the Business Academy is you work very closely with the students in the Rural Business Leadership Initiative. So tell us a little bit more about that, and what is the RBLI, and then what are some of the goals that you have for that program?
Sure. So the RBLI is really near and dear to my heart because it's all about trying to find students in our rural areas that are going to go back to rural areas and giving them the leadership skills that they need to succeed. So one thing that we're trying to concentrate on is building their communication skills, whether that's verbal or in the written form. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable going back and having the skills to create a proposal for a project and how they would actually come up with that proposal, and then what would they actually do with the funding and creating a budget. We try to do a lot of networking with the students so that they feel like they could reach out to the business leaders in our rural communities and say, I'm thinking about going into this position, this type of job or a position like yours. Is there any resources that you could provide me or help me with in any way? So I think that the RBLI is a really valuable program for our students who know that they want to go back to the towns that they came from or of similar size.
And there's 15 students in each cohort, right, with the idea to have 60 total.
Yeah, so we've kind of gone away from the cohort model because we found that some of our students who are currently at Chadron State might not have known about the program, so they want to apply to be in as they might be a current freshman, but they're going to join our program next year as a sophomore, or whatever that case may be. Or we understand that their ideas of what they want to do might change, so they might change their mind about coming into the program.
Sure.
So we don't really limit it at 15. Last year we brought in quite a few students actually into the program. I think upwards of 25 students
that's great.
that came in, which was awesome.
Yeah.
The maximum is 60 students in the program, though.
Overall,
Yes.
okay.
Yep. And we actually just had all of our applicants. We went over a couple weeks ago the new applicants for RBLI to see the students that we had interested coming into the program. So we're really trying to weigh right now the activities and the experiences that we can provide for our students with trying to find out that manageable number of students to be able to do that with, because if a program gets too large, you want to make sure you're developing relationships with the students and truly understanding what they want from the program and what they want to do when they leave Chadron State. If it's too many students, it's really hard to do that. So we've been trying to find a nice balance. But we did just get back from a trip to Broken Bow. We took our juniors and our seniors, which was quite small classes when we talk about the number of students in RBLI. We only had 7 students attend the trip this year, and some are online, so they couldn't. But others that were here on campus went to Broken Bow. We were there for 2.5 days, and we met with a lot of business leaders in Broken Bow who are really excited and interested in our program. Some of them said, if your students need an opportunity or a job, we'd be willing to collaborate.
Oh,
So
that's wonderful.
We're
Yeah.
really excited anytime that we can do something like that.
Yeah, that's great. Open that door.
Yes.
So
and
I know RBLAI is still reasonably new as a program. What year are we in now since it started?
Sure. So Gary Dusick started that program. Actually, I don't even know the specific year. I would
Do you
say
remember?
maybe
It's-
3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 or 4. I think
Okay.
it was pre-pandemic, I think, when it started.
You know
Right.
what? I think that you are right because
Yeah.
we had to pivot a little bit
Yeah.
when the pandemic
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
And then Cassandra Ritson took it over as the sole coordinator last year, and then I was able to come on as a co-coordinator this year. And part of that is because our group coming into this year, we had 52 students in RBLI in the fall.
Very
And
good.
some have graduated, so our numbers, aren't as high as they were. But I would say truly that one of the main goals for the initiative is to show our students the opportunities they have in rural communities that they might not have ever thought of. Because we went to Broken Bow and we saw entrepreneurial ventures up to Fortune 500 companies, right? In Broken Bow, who would have ever thought,
Yeah,
you
sure.
know? So try to show them you can go to a rural area and really make an impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Just have to find your niche, find what's what you're meant to do. So
Cool.
yeah, we really enjoy it.
So you mentioned you were heading toward a PhD. Can you tell us a little bit about where are you at in that process?
Yes, so I was able to successfully defend my dissertation last July, so July of
right.
2022. So I finished school in the early fall. I had to take one more class to get to my 60-hour minimum to get a doctorate. So I got a Doctor of Business Administration with an emphasis in management from Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona.
Excellent.
So it was an all-online 8-week format. It was back-to-back classes.
Yeah.
So I would end a class on Wednesday, and that next day on Thursday, I started a new class. And
No rest for the wicked. I
no
guess.
rest for the
Yeah,
wicked.
wow.
And the only break I got was a 2-week break at Christmas. They gave all students off. But other than that, which was almost a blessing because sometimes it was a class that you'd have a big paper for so you could work on it while you were
Oh, yeah.
on break
That would
or
be
whatever,
nice,
you know,
yeah.
so you didn't feel as stressed about that. And one of them was a research class I was taking at the time. So it was actually helpful to have that extra time. I don't know if everybody spent their time that way. I probably would have been smart to take a break, but I just kept going.
Keep going, yeah.
But I was able to finish the program fairly quickly. In under 3 years, I was able to finish that
Oh, good for you.
program. So kind of sped right through, and it's crazy to think that I'm done, but I'm relieved that I can now dedicate and focus my energy on my students and the classes I have and
Oh, yeah.
the course prep, where some of the real estate principles class, I had to, make some changes to the class, and I felt like this year I had a lot more time to be able to dedicate to strategically placing assignments to match the learning outcomes and make sure everything aligned. So I am glad to be finished. Let's just put it that way.
I
Very
would
good.
imagine. Good job.
Thank you.
What are some of your interests outside of work?
So let's see. I like to cook.
Okay.
I like to exercise.
Those two go hand in hand.
Yes, they do. And then, I have 2 little people, so we keep really busy chasing after them. My husband teaches high school in Hemmingford High. He teaches business, so he also coaches on the side. So
Yeah.
we chase him to football games here and there, and he's coaching track for Hemmingford right now. So we like to listen to how his track students are doing, and my girls are in swimming lessons right now and dance. So
Keeping you busy.
they're keeping
Yeah,
me
that would
busy.
do it.
Yeah.
Yes, but I do really enjoy to cook, and actually part of I had some experience working at a golf course in a kitchen, and part of why I wanted to work in the kitchen so bad is because I thought I wanted to be a chef. So that was a dream of mine for a long time, and then I saw the long hours and thought about like the schooling involved, which is funny now because I went on to get a doctorate. So what would it have mattered? But, you know, at the time was super intimidating to think of doing that. But that's why I wanted to, so I could be better in the kitchen, I suppose.
Wonderful.
Do you have a favorite dish to prepare?
Oh, man. So being ranch girl, like homemade chicken fried steak.
Oh, well, that's great.
Delicious.
Yeah.
But I have an Instant Pot, and I'm so spoiled by my Instant Pot. I feel like maybe I could get like a sponsorship from Instant Pot right now. No, I'm just kidding. But I love my Instant Pot, and last night I made Alfredo in my Instant Pot, and that's my favorite thing to make right now.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's fast and it's easy, and it's whole foods that I can pronounce and know what they are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I like it. But
Well, good.
we love to grill, and we love summertime because we have a garden. I guess that would be another thing, is that we like to garden. So we'll grow tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers.
Ooh, yummy,
And
yep.
one year we had cantaloupe, which was interesting because I'd never grown cantaloupe before, but it tasted really good. I just was surprised it would do so well in our environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, so that's a fun thing. My kindergartner loves flowers, so this year we're talking about planting tulips in the fall so that they'll come up in the spring. And we had a conversation about seeds versus like the bulbs, so that was really fun to see her, you know, kind of like open up to like, oh my gosh, and she just didn't realize we plant a seed for the garden, but for something like tulips, you have to plant a bulb a different
Yeah,
time of year. And
right.
so she's super intrigued, and I'm going to try to support her as much as possible through that learning process, since she's a sponge right now.
Well, good.
So,
Yeah, great.
and I do play the piano. So that's another thing. I'm actually giving my kindergartner lessons, since she's seen me play a little bit, then she wants to play. Other interests, I do enjoy reading, and I have more time to do that now than I did when I was in school. So
would
that's
imagine.
kind of nice.
Definitely.
But right now I've been focusing reading on things that can help me be a better teacher in the classroom.
Okay.
So active learning strategies and recommendations for activities in the classroom.
Good for you.
So it hasn't been a ton of fun stuff, but
There's always more to learn.
That's all right.
yes.
So that takes us to the final questions we have for you, some quick hitters. Let's see our first one. A favorite book.
Harry Potter.
All right, yeah, I was going to say hopefully not an educational text. Yeah, that's always fun.
No, I love Harry Potter. I grew up with Harry Potter is what I like to tell people. And my senior year of high school, my grandma got me the last book from the Harry Potter series, and I didn't read it for a full year because I was so sad that Harry Potter was going to
Putting
be
it off.
Wow,
over.
that is,
Yes, so
something.
I felt
Put it off for a year.
deeply connected to Harry Potter. And then over Christmas break, so if I went home for undergrad and would spend, that 3 or 4 weeks at home, I would read the Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
So I've actually read the series several times, and I, hands down,
Yeah.
favorite book series, Harry
All right.
Potter.
Well, that's good. That's good. So you mentioned you like to exercise, and I know
Mm-hmm.
you run, because sometimes in the morning I walk, and I'll see you on a route. So do you have
Yes.
a favorite route to run in
I
town?
do have a favorite route to run. I like to run up 6th Street, up Ridgeview, back down 10th, and then behind the trails on the college. So I'll do a loop on the trail that's adjacent to the new track.
Right.
It goes down by the softball field, and then you can loop back up and run past that again. Sometimes up the Snake if I'm feeling really motivated
Nice.
to do that.
It is a good route, especially in the mornings. You get like
Yes.
the nice sunrise.
Yes, and in November, I specifically remember this morning because I was going on a run, and I was going south at the time, and I looked to the east, and the sun was coming up, and it was just so beautiful. But then I looked to the west, and there were clouds, and like the stars were kind of shining through the clouds, and it was still very dark because of those clouds on that side, and it was beautiful. We're really lucky to live in the area that we do.
Yeah.
And I'd like to run a half marathon. I'm hoping to do that this summer. So now I have, again, like verbally spoken this into existence.
Yeah,
so
good luck.
I'm going to do it, but we'll see.
I believe in
no
you.
doubt.
Yes, thank you.
What is the best advice that you received when you were a college student?
So when I was in my doctoral program, which it's kind of funny that this is what I'm saying is my best advice since it's pretty recent, but I was having a hard time with an assignment. I didn't quite understand what the professor was looking for, and I didn't want to not meet the expectations, especially where we'd already had a couple of assignments. And I was talking to a friend of mine about it, and she said, if you've got a question, just ask the instructor. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't know if I was scared to ask or intimidated or what would they think of me? I don't really know. But she said, and this was before I was adjuncting, if you were a college professor and you had a student who had a question about an assignment, wouldn't you want them to ask you? And I said, well, yeah. So she said, so ask. So that is the best advice. If you have a question, just ask it. Don't be scared to ask it.
Yeah.
More than likely, if someone has that question, they're not the only one.
Yeah.
It's not just one person who has a question if something's unclear.
There are no dumb questions.
No.
And it certainly helps that we have all these ways to ask the question if we're afraid it might be, if we think it might be dumb, well, we can at least email the professor.
Yes.
We don't necessarily have to ask in class, but again,
Raise your hand.
don't be afraid to ask in class either.
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
in an email, you don't hear their exasperation or them throwing something against the wall. Or
Yes.
something.
Oh, you're the fourth student that's asked me that. Gosh, I must not have communicated it clearly.
Yeah. No, that's very good
So,
advice, though.
I mean,
When in
ask
doubt,
the question.
ask.
Yeah.
When in doubt, ask the question. And I spent a lot of time before I asked the question. Who knows how much time I actually spent, thinking about the question and not asking it. So I should have just asked. I would have saved myself a lot of wasted energy and stress. So ask the question.
All
Always.
right. Well, this is a fun one. Speaking of questions, what's your favorite type of cereal? I'd imagine with little ones in the house, maybe something sugary and sweet.
Well, I would say Honey Nut Bunches of Oats with almonds.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
not very fun, though.
I know.
Sure it is.
It's not. But you know why? It's because my
healthy,
kids
too.
don't like it, so I don't get to eat it very often. And we've got some Honey Nut Cheerios in the cupboard right now, Cinnamon Toast Crunch,
That's a heavy,
Frosted Cheerios.
That's a heavy hitter.
Yeah, they do love Lucky Charms. But I stopped buying them Lucky Charms because they were only eating the marshmallows.
Of course,
Oh, yeah,
that's the
same
rule.
with,
Yeah.
same with my kids, too.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And then my in-laws live in Michigan, and there's some store that sells Lucky Charms marshmallows.
It's just the marshmallows.
Just a bag of marshmallows.
Why you can get those? I've seen those at
They got
one
a
of the
taste for
farm
that.
supply stores up in Rapid City.
Yeah, so they got a taste for that, and then there's no going back to the whole
Yeah.
grain.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That is really funny.
You just get a pound of sugar and start chewing on that.
What can go wrong?
So, actually, if I could choose, instead of your typical cold cereal, I like hot cereal. I love oatmeal.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
one of my
oatmeal's great.
There you
favorite
go.
breakfasts. So if you're doing a hot cereal, oatmeal.
Well,
or
yeah,
grits.
that counts. We didn't
Does that count?
specify. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just cereal
that does
generally.
count.
Oatmeal.
Certain
Alex,
kind?
we have to.
I like to make the regular oats, not quick oatmeal,
Okay.
I don't know what that's even called, I guess, but your regular whole grain one, and then I add in honey and craisins and apples, or do peanut butter and honey, sometimes maple syrup.
Very healthy.
Change it up,
That is good.
but
Good for you.
yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love
So,
it.
yeah, what's your favorite cereal? It's like the Seinfeld question.
Mine's not very fun either. Honestly, my favorite cereal is Kix.
Oh, that's good stuff.
I love Kix, but I don't eat them very often because a box will not last very long in my house.
What about you, Daniel? What's yours?
Oh, when I was a kid, of course, it was anything with maximum sugar. Yeah, the marshmallows were good, like Frosted Flakes and
Yeah.
Fruit Loops. But these days, as my twilight years approach, it's great. It's grape nuts.
Grape nuts.
Yes.
Grape nuts are good on ice cream.
Oh, they would be.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
they got the a parfait recipe on the box. But yeah, about as boring as I could get. Get me some grape nuts.
My mom had grape nuts once probably not once, but I noticed them. And
They've been in there for 30
Mom.
years.
And they're still good somehow.
Yeah, they still taste the same.
Well, it's basically dry cardboard, so it doesn't go bad.
I asked her, could I try these? And she said yes. And then I remember being like, These are not the win for me today. No offense. I mean, you're talking like a 10-year-old
Because I
at
like
the time.
crunchy food too, so it's
yeah.
perfect. It's the
Oh,
ultimate.
yeah.
It's the only cereal, though, that you put it in a bowl and then you cover it with milk and you can't see it.
Oh, I did find the secret to
So
that.
dense.
And this was the mistake I made. Like every so often as a kid, parents would have it ordered, so I'd try it and like, oh, I hate this. It was too much milk. You need to make it more of a sludge.
Oh, this keeps sounding more and more appealing the longer you go.
You know what we should try is get some chocolate milk with the grape nuts, and suddenly we're back to a sugary cereal. Yeah.
You might have to
I'll test it.
workshop that. Bring
This
it back.
can't possibly be any worse than that time I tried the Oreos and champagne. Not a good idea.
Just have to report back. And
Yeah.
I mean, Alex and I aren't going to try it, but if you want to try it, then let us know how it goes.
This really should be like a FARcast feature where we bring back stuff or trying awful experiments.
Did you dip the Oreo in champagne? Like
No,
milk?
no, you just eat the Oreos and then sip the champagne and realize it seemed like a good idea and abstract, but they just don't go together.
Was it
Oreos-
straight champagne or like a mimosa?
I suppose it would be a straight champagne. I'm not up
Oreos,
on my champagnes like I should be.
Oreos are too sweet. They're good, but like
Yeah.
too sweet.
Well,
Put
it's
peanut
just
butter on your Oreo? You
no.
ever done
This is
that?
just like the Lucky Charms
Good.
thing again. I
Game
get the
changer.
Oreo. I just want the filling.
Oh yeah, you're like my daughter.
Yeah, it's all sugar. Yum yum yum.
So I know what to get you for Christmas. I'll just get you a bag of powdered sugar and maybe
yeah.
a jug of chocolate milk, and
Oh,
you mix the two
set.
together.
I started thinking of that elementary school volcano project with the vinegar and baking soda. Somehow. Oh, have we gone off on a tangent?
Yeah,
That's okay.
Is it my turn? Caitlin, how many times have you been to the top of Sea Hill? And it seems like this might be you might be in the higher range for this one.
Yeah, so I actually try not to run up Sea Hill if I can help it.
It's very good for you.
It is very good for you. But I would probably say not as many times as I wish I could say. I'd probably say like 8 to 10 times, but
Is that all?
it
Even
is.
with all those
yeah.
runs?
Even with all those runs, yeah, because I'll often just run on the sidewalk
yeah.
that's paved below, so I don't often venture all the way up there. But my kids love to go to, oh my gosh, they call it the Rock Maze. It's not the Rock Maze, the Labyrinth.
Labyrinth, you bet,
Yes,
yeah.
they love to go to the Labyrinth. So sometimes we'll cop up Sea Hill and then
Yeah.
go down the backside so we can go to
That's
the
good stuff.
Labyrinth. But yeah, so I would actually probably been to the Labyrinth more times than I've been up Sea Hill, to be
It's
honest.
also a good place.
But, so yeah,
Yeah, good old
Wonderful.
Sea Hill. And turning 100 next year.
yes, that's awesome.
Landmark, truly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, Caitlin. We've had a lot of fun with you.
Yes, this has been really fun. Thank you for asking me. And
You
I'm glad
bet.
it finally worked out. We ran into barriers with snow.
Yeah, it seems
and-
that weather schedule was just
Yeah.
messing everything
yeah.
up. But
So I just feel grateful that you asked me to be a part of the show.
yeah, thanks for being on.
Yes, thank you.
Take care.